Superintendent Mike Hayes.
Hi, everyone.
We wanted to give a warm welcome to our new superintendent, Michael Hayes. Do you want to take a quick minute and give everyone viewing or later viewing tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome?
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be working for the Village of Hinsdale. 7 days into it, and it's been a true pleasure. All the staff have been wonderful and so welcoming. A little bit about my background. I came from Bensonville Park District. I was a superintendent of recreation there, overseeing events, programs, fitness, facilities, aquatics. Prior to that, I was a superintendent of recreation for Fox Valley Park District, doing all the same, just on a huge scale for the second largest park district in the state of Illinois. Between those two, I've gained a tremendous amount of knowledge in operations, system processes, and it's been worked well here, and it's been a great marriage for the Village of Hinsdale, coming in and knowing Munis, knowing our RecTrack software. So I'm able to provide support to Parks and Recreation, but to all other departments here. Prior to all that, I've been in the field of recreation my entire life. Started when I was 15 years old. I was that day camp kid running around, that lifeguard person, helping set up special events. So it's been a full rounded adventure for me since I've been a little kid. So it's great to be sitting here and be part of the community, and I look forward to working with all of you guys and working for the community.
Well, welcome. We are thrilled to have you with that background.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
In the two most recent job examples that you gave, it was superintendent of recreation.
Correct.
So we're parks and recreation. Does that
Correct.
imply that there's a kind of a new element to what you're?
I guess, yes, you could look at a paper, there's a new element, but realistically, when I was working for those other agencies, I was also in charge of facilities, and facilities in the recreation counts as overseeing playgrounds, park development, facility repairs, painting projects, construction projects. So it's just worded a little different. We did have a park superintendent, but their main outlay was grass, ball field lining, aspects as such.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I think we'll learn a lot from you, and we're excited about your enthusiasm, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit from us as well. Okay, moving on to the next item, public comment. And there is no one in the audience tonight, so we'll move right along. Approval of minutes. Are there any questions or suggestions for the May 10th minutes? No? All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 10th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Ooh, roll call. Sorry,
Okay.
right?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Boroff,
Aye.
Commissioner Hester,
Aye.
Commissioner Keen.
Okay, moving on to the liaison report, Gateway Special Recreation Association. Michael, have you become familiar with this already?
I have a little bit, and I do have some background with SRAs, not specifically Gateway, but
I was gonna ask you that,
I
okay.
will be attending their meeting this upcoming Thursday. They actually have two meetings, one at 1 p.m., which is a special meeting, and then another one at 3 p.m. So just a little update in the report. They basically gave a recap of the end of summer report showing all the programs and participants for the camps throughout the year. They gave a quick snapshot of fall 2022. I was not at this specific meeting, but I do know going into the future meetings, it's going to be interesting to be a part of them because we're going to start discussing contractual arrangements for their services. I think some of the other districts are feeling that we're not being provided the full services we should be being a part of an SRA, and they want to try to make us more like other SRAs in the region. So all the board of directors are going to start getting together and figuring out the direction we want to go.
Okay, we'll look forward to getting those updates and that information from you. Okay, any questions on Gateway? Okay, monthly reports. We have our September staff report.
Yeah.
A lot for 1 week on the
Yeah.
job, right, Michael?
Yeah, it's a test of these two people here next to me. They really helped pull a lot of this together, and I couldn't have done it without them. So But going over the report right here, we did give rental revenue for KLM. This last month of September was $34,725. If you look at the report, we did highlight that earlier months were slow compared to previous years, but in the end, we seem to be on par with our normal seasonal trends. Staff have booked out all the weekends through November, and I know they're still trying to work in securing all the additional bookings for 2022. The report gets a little more detailed on page 2 and 3, where graphs dictate total reservations and revenue comparing from all the way from 2019 to 2022, which does show that we are still on track to maintain or even surpass our 2021 numbers. Upcoming brochure and events information here. Staff are working on the winter spring brochure, which will go live on November 28th. We're in full budget mode here in the whole entire village, especially the Parks and Recreation Department. Fall park cleanup was held on October 6th. I know we just barely got that in. It did start raining, but it did get in, and it was a
Got a
success.
decent turnout for that? Do we know compared to previous years, or is that hard to tell?
It's been down, I guess, since previous years, but we probably had, we went to VEC, we went to Robbins, we went to, oh my gosh, we went to Burlington and as well as KLM, and we probably had maybe six or seven different groups that reached out to us. Some of them were smaller groups, so you know, a family of 2 people that came out. We did have a Boy Scout troop that did participate. They were at Burlington, so I mean, a decent turnout, but apparently compared to what it used to be, it wasn't there. So
Well, it was funny. I was at a football game last weekend. My son's in the band, and I had a dad stop me and say, "Oh, when are you having your next, park cleanup day?" And literally, it had just happened, right? So I thought, he hadn't heard about it. So that's why I was curious, because I knew it was coming, but I wasn't looking for it.
All of that information is in the monthly e-newsletter that we send out. So if they're interested in any of our events, any Parks and Rec information, definitely we point them in that direction.
I didn't, I should write them
it's
and
also-
have to make sure that they're receiving the e-newsletter.
Yeah.
we also had it on social media. But we're going to be making a bigger deal out of this upcoming one in April with the 150th, and hopefully we'll get a better turnout for that. So
I actually didn't remember that we have a fall cleanup.
Right.
The spring cleanup seems like a big deal, and maybe the fall cleanup kind of gets lost in the noise of.
Yeah, I think we could somehow make a bigger advertisement for it. I think people are used to, we have the Earth Day,
Yes.
April cleanup and that.
Yes,
But when we
definitely.
started doing the fall, I think there are people that would join in, but just maybe we're not aware. Do we have any idea how many people are getting that e-newsletter, the village e-newsletter, roughly? Do we have any clue?
I
Okay,
don't off the top of my head, it's a couple thousand.
okay. Oh, it is, all right.
I also think that part of the problem with fall park cleanup is it's a little less exciting because there's no planting.
Yeah, we don't do tree planting.
You're cleaning up litter.
You're also
Trash, yeah.
You're also butting up against fall sports. I know me specifically. My kids in t-ball. Baseball, soccer, and it's right at the same time.
Yeah.
So maybe even if it's shifting to a weekend, changing the date, and I think marketing will get a little better now that the whole team is functioning and the car's moving together here. So
Which I meant to welcome Hillary as well. I don't know that I think you've moved over since our last meeting, is that, or just before that?
It was just before, and
Just
I
before
wasn't
that.
able to attend the May meeting, unfortunately. So yeah, thank you.
So we're happy to have you here as well. So, and of course, Maggie, also, we're always happy to have you here. Can't leave Brad out either. He's feeling left out over there. But no, I'm really excited about our new team and going forward. I think you guys have some great new ideas, and I think it's always change, sometimes unexpectedly, but can turn out to be a positive thing. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So is there a new Hillary for KLM or
there
for
is.
for the lodges?
There is. Her name is Stephanie, and pardon me, I don't know her last name off the top of my head right now.
Her last name is Scaletta.
Scaletta. She's been here about a week longer than me. She's super nice, super outgoing, friendly. I was just over there today talking with her. She has a million ideas, very talented when it comes to marketing and website and graphic design. Very knowledgeable and trendy with the new wedding outlays and where to go and for bookings. So I think she's going to be a good part of the team, and we look forward to working with her closely.
And she got married at the lodge about a year and a half ago. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Gosh,
She
that
has
is nice to have
direct
somebody that's had that experience.
Yes, she just went
Yeah.
through it, so it's a great situation.
We
Phenomenal.
will ask her to come to the next meeting and introduce her to you guys.
That would be great, yeah. Because, just doing a little quick math, are we potentially going to hit our record year this year at the lodge?
Or we're projecting it, yes, as of right now, based on our numbers. I mean, keep in mind, there could be cancellations and whatnot, but right now we are projecting that we are going to break the records in the past, according to our numbers.
Very kudos to you. I think part of this, what do you attribute this huge, I know it's post-COVID, but is
Yeah, I
that,
mean,
is it
that's a
just pent-up
huge-
demand?
That is a huge part of it. It's demand. People were scrambling to get in after COVID. They're, booking every Saturday, especially during peak season times, anywhere from May through November, like he said. I think that's a big part of it. So I think you'll see a trend maybe not next year, but the year following, where it might go down. But, I think that's a big part of it, was the post-COVID thing.
Well, it's great to see.
So it's almost taken 2 years, 21 and 22, to kind of shake out that pent-up demand from
Totally, yes.
prior.
People were delayed. They were, everything was kind of bumped around, event timelines, things like that. So I think we're back, and it's a lot. It's very busy.
And we've made some improvements there during this time.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that'll,
The
There,
ductwork.
yeah, I
Which people
know.
don't really know that, but
Yeah, I know the ductwork's been improved. There's some future projects planned.
Yeah.
Whether or not, as we go through the budget process, we're able to do them. But we're looking at details right now, whether it's paint, flooring, possible researching getting an elevator for that second floor. I just met with our electrician out there, looking at trying to figure out the electrical issue outside. Currently, if we have big weddings outside, we have to run generators because we blow fuses. So we do have an option of how to fix that, but it's just got to be planned for, essentially. And just lots of little things. We're trying to focus on light poles. There's a couple light poles that are nearing the end of its life out there. So we started looking at that today, and those are all things we're addressing going through this budget process.
oh, great. Look forward to hearing about those.
Just a couple other things in the report here. This weekend, if you're around, come out October 15th, Hinsdale Middle School. We're having our Fall Family Fest. I know there's a ton of other activities going on throughout the community. We're still working on fall rentals right now for fields. They go, I do believe, through end of November. Yep, end of November. And then the Scouts have finished the park gazebo renovation, and there was actually a short article in there which is attached to this. And next month, we're going to work together and start pulling some numbers for the pool for you guys. Apologize, just didn't get around to it yet. And that is all I've got.
Okay, that Scout project, I have to tell you, I know that family personally. That son has been really good friends with my son, same age, and that turned out to be a much bigger project than they had anticipated. I mean, they spent so much time on it, but they said that the support from the neighborhood was great. The neighboring houses were coming out and bringing them water and bringing them snacks, and I mean, his grandfather was up on that ladder, and I was like, he's not allowed to be up there on that scaffolding, and
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
but yeah, I think they did a great job. And I've actually had other scouts approach me now for, if we have other Eagle Scout projects. So just thinking about that going forward, I think they like coming to us. So if we have others in the works for next year.
Yeah, I'm sure we could find something. So
Yeah.
definitely, please send them our way. All the help we can get, we'll take.
By early accounts, looks like we had a really good year with the pool as well.
No, it's just looking.
Yeah, looking over the pool, I did briefly look at that. Memberships are definitely up from 2021, which is a trend that I saw at my other facility I came from. Keep in mind, with COVID last year, lots of places were restricted to memberships or didn't do them. So like Hillary said, same thing as like KLM. People are changing coming out from COVID. Our daily admissions were slightly down, I thought. But they're not horrible. Most people switched, it seemed, over to those pool memberships, which is great.
Yeah, when we do our report next month, it would be great if we can, similar to the daily fee revenue where we've got like a 5 or 6 year history. Because of COVID, I feel like just looking at 21 and 22, it would be nice to have like those 19 numbers, some of those to see how we compare.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Sorry, no, we're
this
just
is you
asking-
and- Yeah,
Yeah, we were asking on a registration system how long we had it, so.
yeah,
I
we
just-
should be okay.
Yeah, we'll be good.
We can pull that. for
Oh,
you.
okay, if it's
Of course,
available,
yeah.
that would be great. Because I was very encouraged by the number of renewals of our residents, which just seemed very high compared to the previous year, but obviously the previous year, they weren't, I don't know if we were comparing to 2020 when I don't think we had. We didn't have passes that year, right? We
right.
were just doing, you
It
had to
was just the-
reserve the,
That was partly why the daily rates for 2020 are so high, because it was no passes, right?
Right.
Isn't that what it
And
was?
that-
Right.
Right.
It was,
This-
daily guest passes.
right.
The state restricted stuff back then.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, yeah, the comparisons are kind of tough when you just look at that
Plus,
1 or
I-
2 year time
From
frame.
what I know, 2020, Hinsdale was one of the only pools in the area that was open.
That was open.
So your numbers are going to look higher for
Right.
those years.
So that's why
had
if we
more
can
going
take, if we
on.
can kind of see what the trend was before there, because
Yeah.
we've had some significant improvements, I think, to the pool as well since then. So it would be nice to know if any of that is slowly taking effect. And, oh yeah, and we still have toys for the pool, right?
Right, that's what I was going to say. So I assume for the November meeting that we can also talk about do we have anything planned, new things that are going to happen at the pool
Yeah,
next
so,
year, or no?
As we're going through this budget process right now, and obviously you've got to sit down with all the administration staff, there are a few more phases planned for at the pool. My initial thought process is we did get a quote last year from Williams Architect for $15,000 to get a study on that baby pool area of getting new features in there and a possible, whether it's a splash pad or a little water slide. My thought process initially, and I haven't even presented it to Brad right now, so surprise, is to do that study before we jump into phase 3 and phase 4 and make sure we're earmarking those funds appropriately and it's going to be suitable for the pool and the community.
At the cost and whether we have the funds to do that. I know the one thing that we had talked about was so that study would be just for the baby pool area? Or would it incorporate the diving well? We had talked about years before, I guess it was before COVID, having kind of like a
Yeah.
climbing wall or something.
It incorporates both. The climbing wall actually cannot happen due to insurance reasons.
Okay,
So that was put on hold and removed.
didn't know
But
that.
we did do enough of the project through the Oslin grant where we have secured the funds, so we don't have to necessarily stay on the timeline anymore through Oslin. Myself and Garrett did confirm that this week, so we've met our requirements at this point for the grant. So phase 3 and phase 4 is essentially funds that we can use as needed. We don't have to follow specifically what we said in the Oslin grant at this point.
Oh, okay. Okay,
When we had the discussion, as I recall, and we considered the climbing wall, there was some, I think the motivation for the climbing wall is we were aiming for a certain demographic at the pool. Is that the direction we still want to go in? Because unfortunately, the climbing wall, which we all agreed would be a great addition to the pool, just the IDPH came in and said the dive wall configuration just would not allow for that climbing wall to go in because the diving well is kind of as a beveled base at the bottom. So we were kind of disappointed we had to scrap that, but we will look at other alternatives if you think that's the demographic we still want to reach as far as amenities, or we can just put everything on the table and
So in other
let the
words, it'd be
commission
reaching
weigh
more of the preteen, teen
right. And I thought that
demographic.
was kind of the direction that we were headed with the diving wall.
do we have that data for the last few years of attendees by age?
You can pull that rec track, absolutely.
Do we get that?
Yeah.
Information from them?
We, well, not dailies,
Pass
pass
users,
holders, we
yeah.
can.
Which is
Yeah.
a huge part.
We've also done surveys of like the pool attendees, right? In the past, I don't know if we have one from this year, but at least from a prior year
Yeah,
that
you're
could
right.
give us some,
There is a
Maybe some
pool survey
indication.
that was done. I'm not specific on the exact details on it. I think it was asking more, what would you like to see change at the pool? What did,
How
what-
did the season go, kind of questions like that, but we could potentially survey.
I think that in general, my feeling, my kids are kind of beyond the pool, but I do feel like in general, when the kids get to be in about middle school, or they kind of do stop going to the pool. Now, the diving well obviously is that's something that older kids do like. The question is, do they still want to go to the pool, period? You know, so would bringing a climbing
Yeah.
wall
I mean,
encourage them to want to come in? Or are they just kind of, in general, moving on to other things? I don't know.
I mean, it depends on your community. So start by saying that, but I've done pools at all my places, and I will tell you, we will get, I'll say, comfortably up to 8th grade if we have features such as water slides, more drop slides. Those are the aspects that the kids are coming from, and we have the possibility to do it there. It's just you got to be creative of how we want to reconfigure and do it. I mean, at my one pool, I had the water slide actually come through a whole entire parking lot, and you're parking under it, and then
Oh
it
my
came
gosh.
back into the pool. So there are options. We just have to think outside the box a little.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd be interested in seeing what those options are. I don't want to make a decision kind of in a vacuum, just based on, I think, maybe some really old information we have, but maybe it would be nice to know what are the possibilities. I mean, yeah, my kids are kind of up and gone from the pool as well. I do feel like there's a lot of new young families that move into the neighborhood, so that baby pool does seem typically to be busy. Does it need updating by now? I'd probably have to go back and look at it. I haven't.
I mean, I think where we took out the whole sand area and now just sort of have the grass, which requires probably watering, and, you know, there probably is a better use of that space, and bringing in some other features to the kiddie pool would, I think that could make sense also, so.
Yeah, and then there's some infrastructure issues we got to look at the baby pool. Minor, just I know they were able to slip line the pipe going to it to stop a leak, but we have some check valves in our surge tanks that need to get replaced. So there's some minor work in that, and not a ton of money, but other things we also need to look at.
I would also say, I know we've talked about in the past, as far as the deck space, you know, it's very crowded in there because you're trying to maximize the chairs, so there's not much room to move around. But we had talked about removing some of that landscaping and those big trees because they've just kind of grown too big, and so there is no sight line from the main pool. You should be able to see from the baby pool to the main pool to the diving well. It's for parents, it's a kind of a safety thing, and I think that if we took out some of that interior trees and greenery, you could expand the deck a little bit, maybe?
For my best friend by saying that. That's the first thing I said when I walked into all this
Yeah.
staff. I was like, why do we have trees at the pool here?
Thank you.
Because it gets in the water, you have to scrub, you got to pick up debris. That's something we already had a conversation on at Public Services.
I think, you know, when the pool was 1991, I think was when that pool was built, you know, you build something new and you put a small tree in it. It looks great, you know, I mean, they were just small. It was a much different feel, but after all these years, things grow up and need to be reconfigured.
Sure. If I can make a recommendation, I think that my team and I could get a survey together and try to feel out some pass holders of what elements they might be interested in and see if we can get any data and just maybe talk next meeting on it.
That would be great. And if there's even the potential, because we have such a high number of daily entrants, I wonder if that's something is there a short version that we could put on social media? Is there a link we could put somewhere where people could come in? If it's a short survey, they might be willing to do that if they know that we're looking at improving aspects of the pool.
Sure.
Especially if the Hinsdalean will make reference to a survey.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If we can somehow get it in the paper, if we can get scan this QR code and fill out the survey and be done, that might be another way to get some more answers.
And I haven't looked into our summer brochure, and I have to ask them, but we might be able to get some of the ages too creatively, depending on your fees. Like I know my last pool, you paid a certain fee depending on your age. So we might be able to backwards data dump some of our information and get a ballpark age, but I'm not sure how our fees are structured.
We don't. We just have a flat fee.
I was wondering, for the summer camp people, are they part of the daily fee on the days they come versus they don't own a pass? And they don't have a
From the
pass?
community
It's a
house
daily
summer camp?
fee.
Yeah, I think, those camp days have gotten really big, It's great that they come, and I think, I don't know if there's been any complaints. I don't know. I've been there a couple times when the camp comes. I mean, they come and they completely take over kind of that grass area. in the deep end, which is fine. But I just was curious, first of all, some of the numbers for those daily entrants is due to the fact that the camps are coming in at least twice a week. If not, is it more than twice a week? Okay.
Did get some feedback on the surveys related to that. So it's definitely something we can talk about in the report that we give. We'll give you guys the feedback from the survey.
Well, and again, speaking about the landscaping with that grass area behind the deck there, I mean, I think the grass area is great and people do use that definitely to sit on, but you have to either make a commitment that you're going to water the grass or, you know, because it just kind of turns into mud if it's dry, which, I mean, it turns into dust.
Dust, brown dust grass, yes.
Yes, so, you know, these are all just things to think in the back of your mind, but, okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have a great pool discussion next month. But no, great points. Good to get those out in advance. Do we have any other questions or comments on the staff report? Okay, and our fields are still going gangbusters, right?
Yes.
Our summer programming was so high.
The emails are flying right now for field rentals. It is, between Hillary and I here trying to keep up with them, it is ongoing.
Wow. Is it really lacrosse that's taken off? This herd lacrosse?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. It's huge. It has grown. I don't know that they anticipated how big it would become. So yes, they made a good choice with her lacrosse. It's going well.
Great. Because then it feeds those kids, feed right into the high school if they want. I mean, it's, yeah, we haven't
It's a good
had-
program. We like working with them. The gentlemen that we work with are really easy to work with, and so far so good. So
Okay, excellent.
I know that I believe that we decided not to make any major changes to the skating rink, but I'm just wondering in terms of our kind of cycle of decisions and so forth, do we need to review anything or discuss anything in terms of the upcoming skating season here in the next meeting or two?
I mean, I've heard some rumblings on the skating rink. I mean, you know, so ice skating in Chicago is always a challenge. You get a window of 4 weeks to get it made. I've read notes of location movements.
Ice
skating.
skating,
Oh.
yeah.
I've had notes of location movements. I've had discussions with public services on it. I guess I'm open for discussion and conversation. And of course, I don't really know too much of the history on it besides what we all struggle of weather conditions and getting ice freeze. I did see it last year, some pictures of it. It looked like it did freeze pretty good at Burns. It was actually crystal clear last year.
I think we had the most skating days we've had in quite a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think our discussion wasn't it about either using the tennis courts, was.
Potentially
we-
moving
potentially-
the rink somewhere else, and I think we
A lot of it was about
ruled
moving to
out
the
the
tennis courts.
possibilities.
Because the ground and the differences in the ground height and the relating time it takes to freeze, and so the question was,
Yeah, and I remember us talking
if we
with,
move to the tennis courts, we gain 2 weeks of time.
But it
There was
did.
yeah,
issues with
but I
tennis
also remember that another community had done that and used their tennis courts, and our rink actually froze faster than theirs, or something like that.
If I
Clarendon Hills is
remember
done.
correctly, the discussion was Clarendon Hills Park District puts their ice rinks on their tennis courts. But they have to drill holes onto the tennis courts to anchor the rink. Last year, they put their rink on their tennis courts, and we got more skating days, having ours in Burns.
Our issue also with their tennis courts, after talking with public service, is the poles in the middle for the nets. Those are permanent, so we have to then find a way to get them out and break concrete and get a solution to take them in and out.
Right, we had talked about, or else there would be 2 really narrow rinks kind of
Correct.
down each side, or we had a long discussion about the options of those tennis courts.
Yeah, I
and it
think
just
most of
didn't
our
seem-
discussions stemmed around the uneven
The
depth
slope.
of the water, which causes it to take too long. We also talked in the past about having 2 rinks versus 1 to have them both freeze faster. Or we like to have the single rink because you could have kids play hockey and all that kind of thing. So there was also talk about, is there a way to level the ground better? So all the conversation came back to the same thing. Takes a long time for this to freeze, takes much less time for this to freeze.
You know, I'll put a memo into Tom Skilling. We'll get good winter weather, so.
And I thought, you know, we explored a lot of possibilities, and even like Burlington or other locations.
yeah, I
And we
remember
ruled
that.
all that
Talked about
out,
to
and we
death.
went back to the original. But I was just wondering, are there any tweaks that we need to consider in terms of how we run that, you know, or kind of manage that current location? And that's all. I wasn't trying to reopen a
Yeah, we
big
talked about
re-exploration.
taking it downtown and getting machinery to keep it cold, and we've
was like
talked
hundreds of
about this
thousands.
all over the place, and we ended up back in Burns Field. And the only other alternative was the tennis courts, but even last year we talked about it, that we were talking about how the poles were in the way, so that's not a new thing. And then we said, well, let's forget about it till next year. Now it's next year.
And now it's
So-
next
But
year.
of course it did, we had our
And then we
banner
had a
year
banner
this
year,
year,
yeah.
so, you know, it's like, yay, let's do it again, and then it's probably, you know, we'll do it, and then it will have a very warm winter. So it's kind of a no-win, but I think,
I think that the skating rink with the warming house is a solid thing. Everybody wants it. It's a Hinsdale thing. And the question is, how can we extend the season? And then, of course, we've had a lot of vandalism in the past too, but mainly how can we extend the season, so.
I will say it's a special thing to keep in this community because not many places are doing ice rinks anymore. I mean, I truthfully don't know very many around here that have ice rinks. So if it's working and people are coming, I definitely think we should keep it and just try to work around the weather the best we can.
I think one of the big challenges, as Steve mentioned, was the vandalism that happened, because I think that warming hut and the bathrooms were open and unmonitored at that time when the vandalism happened, I believe. So,
I think someone sliced the ring too, didn't they, one time? They
That
cut
they-
up the ring. So.
Yeah,
but now
there was
there's, I
that,
think,
and
and
they,
we have cameras out there now, right? Or that was something we had talked about?
Talked about cameras.
We might have an option for that. Also, so the paddleball people out there have their own Wi-Fi now, and they did tell me that the other day where they would give us access to their Wi-Fi if we wanted to go down that road and get some type of camera system.
Definitely an interesting option.
vandalism on the, when they put the signs up, like, is skating open or is skating closed? They vandalized the signs
They
too.
broke the signs last year,
Yeah.
and then I think they punched holes in the ice, so we had to go out there and even the ice out and
Yeah.
refreeze it.
It took a while. But then there were warming hut issues, right?
I don't remember. I just
Was that-
remember.
was
I
that-
remember the
Was that a couple
signs.
of years ago?
I don't remember that.
Last year too.
Was that last
Was
year?
it?
Yeah, yeah. Welcome. Which just, when you were talking about skate park, I was thinking about the skate park that's over by,
Vec.
by Vec. And so I know that the construction is going on there right now, but
Right.
we had talked about, just something else to add, Mike, to your docket. We had talked about what we could do with that space, because there was, the skating wasn't at that point getting a ton of use, but there were more issues with it in terms of vandalism or things happening in that area. It's a little tucked away, a little hidden, and there were different ideas about what to do with that space. How is our construction going with 294? Do we know when that's expected to be finished in the overpass?
It's actually going very well. I don't know if you've had a chance to go over there.
I have not been there, no.
Vec Park is really progressing along well. We were trying to get the landscape in this fall. We had trouble getting some of the trees, so it's pushed off to the spring. They have planted some of the trees, but the ped bridge is very close to completion. We expect to have that done within the next 30 to 45 days.
Oh, okay.
So that's done. In Vec Park, it's the same thing there. We're waiting for the trees to be planted, but if you look at the area that we've gained by covering that culvert area, we probably have 50 additional yards of park space from where we used to have it, where that chain link fence covered that.
On the Pierce side, over on the other?
On Pierce side,
On the
right.
Pierce side, okay.
Right, so we have gained a lot of space. It'll probably look like lesser space once the landscaping goes in, but we've actually been contacted by the Little League with ideas on how to use that space. I'm not sure how usable it is because there is a concrete culvert running underneath that space. But we may be able to look at ideas that Little League has for that. But it's really made that park look a lot bigger. And I think once the landscaping goes in, it'll really look good and look like a bigger park. The village about a month ago just signed another intergovernmental agreement with the tollway for, in the 600 block of Harding, we have Woodland Park. The tollway took down 5 homes that they were going to use for an above-ground drainage area in the 600 block of Harding, which is on the east side of Harding, right at the curve there. We have an agreement now where they're going to provide underground water detention there. The tollway is going to build a vault there. And so we're going to be able to continue Woodland Park further to the north where those 5 homes were. So it's going to be the same landscaping there. We can't locate any equipment there. We can't do any plantings there because of the concrete vault that's underneath there. But it's going to be an extension of Woodland Park and a much better addition to the neighborhood than above-ground water detention surrounded by a chain link fence.
Currently, there's still one house there, right? That
One house there, it's
they were
pending
kind of a holdout, I think.
They've obtained it, and the tollway is just waiting for a demo permit. from
But that's the
village.
area you're talking about, where
Yes,
those houses were
Where those
right
5
there.
homes were, right.
My husband and I, we have a bike route that goes over the old pedestrian bridge, and we come back, or we come down 47th Street, so we're kind of sad that the, that the pedestrian bridge
What happens to the
is
old
going. They're
old
gonna
one
be
once the
taking
new
it
one
down.
is done?
They take it out.
goes down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once
Will
the
that
new one
happen
is
right
in.
away, or?
We expected that to be done by now, but one of the sections actually, the truck bringing it down from Wisconsin got in an accident
Talking about for the new bridge?
for the new bridge.
We thought so, because we're like, they were so ready, and all the cranes were there, and all of a sudden it
Right.
kind of stopped.
So they had to send it back to Wisconsin, have it refabricated, and it's supposed to be back sometime within the next 30 to 45 days. The approach is all set up. We're trying to coordinate some type of ribbon cutting for the pedestrian bridge, but so far it looks really good. I mean, it's a much wider approach than the current pedestrian bridge. We're talking about how we make sure cars don't drive over it.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It is great. It is sad, though, that we're not going to have, now that I didn't used to have that be my bike route, but now that it.
We voted about this.
I know, but I'm like, because we ride but we still ride over 47th. We still ride, you can
Okay,
still do
over-
that.
right.
So you're
There just isn't a
you're
pedestrian
losing,
lane,
you're
right.
losing that, which we knew, we talked about. It's-
Right.
My vote wasn't going to change the tollways thing, but
It was actually up to Western Springs and Hinsdale had to
Yes.
decide where it was going to go.
I remember. I know.
And the
how-
residents on the Hinsdale side initially came out in favor of keeping it at the same spot. But for some reason, a week after I met with them, they all came back collectively and said, we don't want it here anymore.
Because of
So-
all of us
Well, because it was going to
bikers.
be that huge winding, because it had to be ADA accessible, which
Right,
it wasn't,
so
right?
it's-
And it was going to take up
right, they
so
had to
much more
reduce
room.
the slope and on the approaches to the pedestrian bridge because
Right.
it's a wider span now that it's more lanes. But
Anyway.
hopefully, we can work with Western Springs and, develop some programs where we're getting more value out of connecting those 2 parks together. Because
Right.
it does connect Spring Rock Park and Western Springs to
Mm-hmm.
Hinsdale's Park, but we really haven't sat down with the Park District in Western Springs and say, how do we use this?
Well,
for-
that's
to
the
our
thing,
advantage for
right.
Both of us, so.
Well, like,
It'd be
what's
like a
the
We
summer
need to have
relay
that
race.
conversation and,
I think they're putting some new pickle courts over, they're hoping to put new pickle courts over there in Spring Rock Park.
Oh, they
and
are?
A dog park.
really.
They're putting a dog
I
park in?
read something about,
Say those.
I know,
words.
I forget where I was reading it, but they got a grant, they have money, they're looking for, I believe it's Spring Rock Park, new pickle courts. I saw potential, I don't think anything's set, I saw a dog park. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. But anyway, we digress. Okay, going
No,
on.
because, no, so the whole question, is that still an empty space that we're looking for something to do where that skate park used to be, or has that kind of been absorbed into?
Originally, we had tried to negotiate with the contractor that was doing the ped bridge work to say, we will give you access to stage your equipment in that lot. And in return, it was going to be in that pad where the skate park was. But they did not want to pay what we wanted to pay for it. And they ended up figuring out a way to stage their equipment on Chicago Avenue and not use our park space at all. So the original plan was to ask them to put in a pickleball pad.
Pickleball courts, because we had talked about
Right, and
expanding.
repave the parking lot, but if you've ever been by there, they have, and we put some cameras up just to keep them honest, but they have not used that parking area as for staging at all in their construction.
Okay, something to think about in the future as well. I love the ideas. Love all the, yeah, lots we can do. All right, moving on to item number 7, old business. No old business? Okay, new business. We have a bench donation.
Yeah, we received an application for bench donation. It's to be displayed at KLM. The donation was made in memory of a family member. I guess they have longstanding ties with the park. We feel that this is a fine donation. We're comfortable taking it on, but we have not finalized the location for the bench yet. They wanted to initially place it behind the memorial site at KLM, and we feel that'd be taking away from. If you walk out the patio of the lodge, you walk straight back towards the Montessori building. It's right on the left-hand side there. It's a little overgrown. We probably need to do some cutting down of some shrubbery there. But they wanted to place it right behind that memorial site, and that's kind of taken away from the owners of the property. So we're still working on location placements, and we'll come back to the board here and let you guys know that later.
Okay.
So this would be a new location, a new bench, not a replacement?
Correct. So it is a new bench, just we haven't ironed out the location yet.
Are there possibilities for replacing an old bench with this one? I mean, that's the ideal scenario, right?
We're
Is that-
still working it out with John Fennell to see kind of where he thinks it should go.
Yeah.
Have all of our KLM benches now been replaced? I know we had several that were replaced, but
No.
is there still one left in KLM?
I don't know.
Okay.
We're looking into it. I think John had mentioned that typically benches at KLM are along the walkways.
Right.
Would possibly suggest that to the person that would like to
I
do
would
this.
advocate for always trying to steer somebody towards replacing an existing bench
Right.
as opposed to introducing a new one.
And what about the playground that's there? Are there benches along the playground, which is now, I know it's enclosed, but I remember those days. It was always nice to have a bench and a playground. I don't know if we have one there or if there's
recall
one
if
that
there
needs to be
is.
replaced there as well. It's kind of near the memorial site, but not,
Yeah,
it's
I
closer.
can't
We
remember.
have to look into.
Okay.
I've visited almost every single park, but that is one that I've not actually walked completely down and looked at that playground.
The biggest one we
There
have.
Yeah, I
are,
know,
there are
right?
a couple of
And I
benches
can't
there,
picture
but
what's
Are they
over
in
there,
that
so.
playground? So are they
Yeah,
still
but I-
old or are they replaced? We don't know.
I have no
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
But I know that
Something
there
else
are
to think
some
about.
there.
Okay, so that'll come back to us for approval once we finalize and agree upon a mutually agreeable
Correct.
location. Okay, correspondence? No correspondence?
Done.
Other business? Were you gonna give me a paddle update?
Yeah, I can give you that.
Sure.
So I talked with Hinsdale Paddle Association, Mark, over there. So there is a lockbox on the bathrooms at Burns Park that we put out. From my research, the key in there, kept getting lost because it'd be dark at night. It's not lit, and people are trying to use the lockbox, and not everyone understands how to use the lockbox properly. So that's when the conversation came up, and Mark's like, "Hey, we have internet out there," and light bulb kind of went in my head.
Mark Schaub?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're replacing the lockbox out there, but with a Wi-Fi lockbox. Same price as a normal lockbox, but paddleball people will be able to go to their cell phones where we're going to give them access. They'll be able to just tap the lockbox, and it'll open up, and then it'll close. And then he's also putting an equipment box, or he has one out there that we're going to have a key in there too. So we're going to have backup keys either way.
Sounds great, because I know they did a similar thing for the hut, so it's nice.
This is KLM or the
This
Burns?
is Burns Field.
Okay.
I was out there 2 weeks ago, I think, playing on a Sunday, and so we were trying to figure out how to access the bathroom. The bathrooms are still open because the park, we haven't shut them down for the season yet, but there was supposed to be a lockbox, and there was a lockbox there, that once the bathrooms are shut down, that you can still get into the warming hut and enter the bathroom from the inside, but it wasn't working. So this sounds like a much better
And
solution.
just a little update, all of our restrooms will be shut down in the next few weeks besides Burns because we have the ice rink out there. And then ours, I did confirm So parks or public service does open them in the morning. They usually start on the south side.
So it is public service, because wasn't it police at one point?
They
that were
lock
opening
them
and
at night.
closing? They lock at night, okay.
So it's typically in the evening at dusk they get locked, but it also depends on if they're out in patrol or something came up. So I get that flexibility a little bit there.
Great, well, thank you for doing that. That is, that sounds like a very good solution.
Was there any update or progress on what we talked about last time with paddle at KLM? They were talking about adding courts or whatever we call it.
That's currently with our village planner right now. We've met with them a couple times. There's some parking issues, and, you know, there's also concern about there isn't enough clearance between where they want to put the courts and the underlying ground. So I don't know if you recall, but we've struggled with the heaters working properly unless there's a large enough area underneath where they have heater circulation to keep the courts warm and dry. So that's kind of the issue now, and that's what they're looking into. But they still have plans to add 2 courts. It is.
What's up higher?
I don't think they want to change the underlying.
They want to, oh, I see. All right. So they're trying to work through all the details of that.
So it's never gone to the trustees yet because
not
it
yet.
hasn't passed plan
Right.
commission.
Right.
And just a quick question, because we spent so many months and hours on it. Do we have any updates on the off-leash dog area at KLM? Have we had complaints? We haven't met in so many months.
So people are happy. Somebody came in my office this week and said how fabulous it was.
Oh my gosh,
that
that's
they have more
gratifying to
daylight
hear.
hours. And then we did order updated signage, so John is going to be hanging that up. Obviously, the hours change in, 3 weeks anyway. So, but everybody so far is very happy. We've had a couple of minor complaints from some people who rent fields from us about dogs that aren't coming in the right parking lot. But we've told them just call the police and they'll go out
We've
there and write
also
tickets.
notified the police department as well, just to kind of maybe send a patrol or the CSO officer over there at that time that it's typically happening.
Reduction, are people following the rules a little bit more? Have we noticed a reduction in complaints or have dogs been running into the lodge events?
We've only, since I've been here, there's only been 1 complaint, and I've only been here 6 days, so.
That's not a very good metric.
But it was one of our rentals out there. We emailed them and they said they would take care of it, and it was addressed as far as I'm concerned or know about. I do know that I did talk with John, and he is putting, so we have a whole plethora of signs to go out there. They're a little backlogged, but he's getting 4 of them up, he said, this week immediately. And I'm hoping in the future with staff being around out there more, we can also help kind of curtail the dog situation out there a little bit.
It's usually when the hours change go ahead. that there's
I mean,
confusion.
better signage was a big part of our solution, and if that hasn't yet been implemented or is only happening now, then I wouldn't have expected a lot to have changed.
Definitely got the message that the ordinance changed because I put the wrong hours on the website by accident and somebody called me within 2 hours to correct them. So they know.
As a test.
They know it changed. But yeah, and we do have that website component and we have an email group that we can send stuff out to. The people that came to the meeting all provided their email so they can get e-blasts if we have to close the park, and then we've been putting the park closures in Hinsdale and the monthly Parks and Rec newsletter.
I've seen those a lot more and giving an entire listing, like these are all the times that the park will be closing earlier, the days that they're closed because there's a cross-country meet. Were you planning on sending out a note to that group? I think a huge benefit of having this whole discussion is that we have contact with an entire group of dog owners, dog lovers who communicate a lot with each other as well. So are we planning to send them something to remind them of the hours changing coming up and what the new hours are. I think that
And,
would
and
be
we
helpful.
can put it in the Parks and Rec newsletter and the Hinsdale for that week that the hours
And
change
email
as
it to
well.
them, because then I'm sure it'll go on the dog Facebook page.
And those will go out to everybody in the community that signed up for one of those. We're not missing anybody. So hopefully
And we
they
can
all
get it
get
on social media as well,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we'll get the word out.
Perfect.
And just real quickly on that, we did, the solution, there is no more access from the meadows, right? People cannot, remember that was an
I
issue?
don't recall how that ended. I thought we closed it off altogether.
That's
Put
what
a
I-
lock on it.
Yeah,
Well, there
they
was
put
a
a
bike
lock-
lock
they
that
put a
was
lock
put
on
on
it.
there, like, and then I think somebody had cut that lock or something, or
Right.
they had opened it and thrown it away, so
Right.
they were gonna, think,
I thought
last
we
I heard
had
there
a
was a
permanent
different lock that was
solution.
gonna be put.
Do you know what we're talking about?
Well,
Well, there's like a new, there's a new subdivision that is being built just to the north of Catherine Legge. So you access it off of 55th Street, that housing. So some people, and it has a gate that you can then access KLM from. So some people dog owners were using that as the entrance to get into the dog area.
Got it.
And kind of maybe not being as respectful to some of the homeowners. So we were we had originally thought that we couldn't block that off because it was some kind of right-of-way or fire, something about it. And then I thought that we decided that that could be blocked off so that any dog park people would have to come into the main entrance of KLM and park in the lot to access. And that was gonna hopefully stop some of the problems with the house, with those homeowners over there. So I hope that.
People were pulling into the cul-de-sac and parking and letting their dogs out, and they were all running through all these people's yards to go through this gate.
Right.
I believe that gate was supposed to have
That was
been
what I
locked.
thought was so we might check.
I'm going to be out there tomorrow doing
Maybe
some
check
stuff, so I'll
that.
take a walk around and look.
It's like on the northeast, I think.
Over by the lacrosse
I
field.
believe I got a call about it last week. Somebody
was?
was asking a question about the lock. So I think there's something out there now.
That's the idea, so only the residents can use that access. Okay. Okay, do we have anything else for Mike on his first week on the job? Well, again, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. Look forward to working with you, and all of you, the whole team. It's gonna be a good year.
Thank you.
I think our only other business, our next meeting, November 8th, Tuesday, November 8th, 6 PM still works for everybody. We like the earlier meeting time. Yes? Okay, great. Can I have a motion then? Any other questions? No? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
In a second? All in, we don't need to roll call this one. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, excellent.